It's back to Rosemary Barton.
Oh. There we go. Welcome, friends. It's good to have you here. Thanks for joining us today. It's 11 o'clock and we're just starting to get going here. And we know that a few other people are going to join us as we move along. But for those of you who are joining us on the telephone, and let me tell you what hymns we're using today so that you can follow along in your hymn book at home if you like. We're going to open with Amazing Grace, which is probably one you can sing even without the hymn book. That's at Voices United number 266. And we'll sing Voices United 271. There's a wideness in God's mercy. And then more Voices 5. Holy Spirit, you're like the wind. And we'll close with more Voices 209. Go make a difference. So that's the lineup for today. Our scripture reading is a very brief parable from Luke 13, verses 6 to 9. And Danny McCulloch is going to read it for us. So thank you, Danny, for agreeing to be our reader today. We're so glad you're here. And thanks for joining us. Whether you're joining us here in Zoom with me, whether you're watching from YouTube, or whether you're connecting later on in the week, we're delighted to have you as a part of our worshiping community here at Forest Hill. Let's take a moment.
So everybody sees you.
I'll just bring my candle up here. And we'll take a moment to thank you. We'll just take a moment to make that transition between the chit chat we do at the beginning and the worship that we came for. And so as we do that, I invite you to pause for a moment. Think about why you're here. Today is the second anniversary of our COVID Zoom services. Isn't that remarkable? We have been doing this for 2 years. And so take a deep breath and think back over those 2 years and all the things that have changed. Think about the things we've lost. Think about the things we've learned. Think about the people we've lost. Think about the things that have changed for you. Think about the ways that you have come to grips with the loneliness and the restrictions and the masks and school and all of the things that are different now. Think about the things that we probably want to hold on to, even as we move back into our sanctuary again, which we'll do next month, and we're hoping we'll be able to stay there. 2 years is a long time. And yet we are resilient, and we have connected, and we have striven to be God's faithful people in the midst of that. And so as we celebrate today, we'll light our candles as we have done every week for the last 2 years, and invite God to be with us, to be the light that gives us resilience, that strengthens us and supports us and walks with us and encourages us and draws us forward. That reminds us always that we are not alone. Thanks be to God. And so let's go over to Nancy's home for the prelude. Thanks, Nancy. And hear these words from the psalmist. I will bless you as long as I live. I will lift up my hands and call on your name. My soul is satisfied as with a rich feast, and my mouth praises you with joyful lips. When I think of you on my bed and meditate on you in the watches of the night, for you have been my help, and in the shadow of your wings I sing for joy. My soul clings to you, and your right hand upholds me. Friends, come, let us worship, and let us pray. Oh God, who meets us in all the complexities of life and who offers second chances and mercy and new hope and a way forward, we bring thanks. We bring thanks for your presence over the past 2 years and here today. We bring thanks for your presence with us in the watches of the night. And as we live in the shadow of your wings, we bring thanks for the ways that you connect us and inspire us and teach us to be fruitful. And so come, be with us today. Come enliven our worship and deepen our prayer and bring joy to our song that we might understand praise and celebrate each other in your presence and walk forward into the mission you call us to with excitement and vitality and purpose. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And our opening hymn, Voices United, number 266, Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. The
A man had a fig tree planted in a vineyard, and he came looking for the fruit on it and found none. So he said to the gardener, "See here, for 3 years I have come looking for fruit on this fig tree, and still I find none. Cut it down. Why should it be wasting the soil?" He replied, "Sir, let it alone for 1 more year until I dig around it and put manure on it. If it bears fruit next year, well and good, but if not, you can cut it down."
Thanks for reading, Danny. That's a bit of an uncomfortable parable, isn't it? And it's so short. Just trying to figure out how to take it apart is tricky. But I love this sense of begging for a second chance. I mean, you can almost hear the gardener, right? 1 more year, just give the poor tree another chance. I promise I'll look after it. I'll cultivate around its roots. I'll add manure to the soil. It'll make a difference. You'll see. I mean, you can imagine the pleas of the gardener in this story, just begging his impatient landlord to buy the tree a bit more time. That plea for a second chance, an opportunity to fix whatever's going wrong, and chance to turn things around, it's so poignant, right? It reminds me of my teenagers begging for a chance to stay out an extra hour past their curfew, or maybe think about high school students who are just pleading with their teacher for an extension on that essay. I mean, we all know what it's like to ask for a second chance. We know what it means to be hitting the wire and having that project where we're working at just going south, and you're coming up against the deadline and you're sweating bullets because it's not working, and we've lavished so much care and attention and resources and energy over it, and it isn't measuring up, and it isn't performing. And one of the most important aspects of grace in our religion is that offer of a second chance. And our world is so often harsh and unforgiving, right? You don't get second chances in politics. Look at the way the Tories turfed out their last 2 leaders when they lost an election. Look at the way that corporate Canada gets twitchy with its executives when even a quarter of a year goes by without a profit. We live in a culture that demands immediate results. We want what we want, and we want it now, and we're willing to be pretty brutal to whatever's standing in the way. And even though we're willing to beg for second chances for ourselves, we're a whole lot more suspicious when other people ask us for mercy. Like after a high-profile crime, right? The newspapers almost never complain that the prison sentence is too light. Can you imagine? I mean, almost inevitably, the Facebook posts start to roll into my feed saying, those courts, they're too lenient. The guilty people shouldn't expect mercy. They certainly don't deserve it. The leopards can't change their spots. Second chances are only offered when the authorities are weak. Like the idea that the ideology seems to be that punishment's more important than mercy. Second chances for criminals, well, it's foolish to start with. It's only going to endanger the public. You can't trust people if they've screwed up. And the statistics don't bear that out. I mean, the statistics suggest that the harder that we work at repairing a criminal self-esteem, offering them resources to try to better themselves and start over, the less dangerous to become. But that's not the ideology that gets people riled up and pushing like buttons. So every time there's a story about a big crime in the press, we're treated to this barrage of posts that second chances are for the birds. Like that man who drove the truck that killed all the hockey players in Saskatoon, deport him. We don't want him in Canada. And those leaders of the Freedom Convoy in Ottawa, like deny them bail. that psychopath who used his truck to mow down people in Toronto, lock him up, throw away the key. He can't be changed. We're maybe willing to offer second chances to teenagers or maybe high school students, but not to people like that. Maybe for ourselves, because we understand all those extenuating circumstances, right? But for anybody else? So this parable of Jesus that celebrates second chances, well, it kind of makes me wonder what's wrong with that ideology. What are we missing? Like, what is the role of mercy? What's the role of mercy towards fruitless fig trees or maybe spindly tomato plants, right? Or what's the role of mercy towards employees who have a health issue and can't do the work we want them to do, or do it as easily or as quickly, or maybe who don't want to work overtime shifts? What's mercy towards anyone who's not performing the way that we think they ought to perform? Do we value mercy? Do we value second chances? Or do they just get in our way? How do you determine when a second chance is worth offering? How do you determine when to cut your losses and uproot that fig tree? They're not easy questions. I don't even know if there's a rule that you follow all the time. Here's another set of considerations to add into the mix. I mean, does it matter if the tree is just young? It normally takes 2 to 3 years for a fig tree to start producing figs. Did you know that? Wikipedia is wonderful, right? I learned that. If you try to harvest the figs before the tree is old enough, the tree probably won't ever grow up as strong and sturdy. Take too much off at the beginning, you're never going to get the yield out of it you ought to be able to expect. So maybe the landowner here is the one who doesn't understand gardening. Maybe the landowner's expectations are, I mean, not just premature, but dangerous to the long-term health of the tree. Does that matter? Does it matter that there's this law in Leviticus? You know, that's the book in the Bible with all sorts of different laws that Jewish people are supposed to follow. There's a law in Leviticus that says you're not supposed to harvest any tree for the first 3 years of its life. So Jewish farmers always pick off all the immature fruit from their saplings. Leviticus tells them to. So the landlord maybe isn't Jewish, or if he is, he's breaking the law. When is our reluctance to offer mercy counterproductive or dangerous or even unlawful? Is gardening a good metaphor for the rest of life? Should we treat people the same way as a gardener treats a tree? Is there a time limit on second chances? Like, if you're going to offer a second chance to a person instead of a tree, what's your responsibility as a gardener? I mean, clearly, there's no point in offering a second chance if you're not willing to put in the root work of sort of digging away at the roots and adding the fertilizer and nurturing care. I mean, offering a second chance in this story and in life, really, it's got to be more than just a magnanimous gesture, pretty words. I mean, it's got to be work. It means changing something in yourself as well as in the person you're being merciful to, right? It means it means being prepared to go the extra mile, offer the cultivation and the nourishment necessary to help that tree turn around and bear the fruit it was meant to bear. I mean, a gardener has to change the conditions if she expects the tree to turn around. The teacher has to put in the extra time to help that student catch up and to mark that student's work long after all the other essays are marked. A penal system has to invest in programs that don't just pay lip service to the whole notion of rehabilitation, but puts time and money and personnel into programs that really will help people change and figure out why they got so antisocial in the first place. And hey, a church has to figure out, like, what's going wrong? Why aren't people attending? Why aren't young people coming? What could we do that would be more relevant, even when it makes the regulars twitchy? Like, what does it look like to change the conditions so a person can turn around and start bearing fruit, just like that tree? Are we willing to invest what it would take? Do we even know what it would take? the Bible has talked about humans being like gardeners since it's the story of Adam and Eve, right? And so what would it mean for us to cultivate the garden we live in the way that a gardener cultivates her garden, so that the things that are languishing and not bearing fruit turn around, become what they were always intended to be? Ponder that. Wonder what it means to trust in a God who is really merciful with eyes fully open. Ponder who in our society needs mercy, who's begging for mercy. What would it cost us to be instruments of that mercy? What would we need to change? What soil would we need to fertilize? What does it mean to be a follower of a merciful God who invites us to tend the garden around us with that kind of grace? Think about those things, and as you ponder, let's sing together. We're going to sing Voices United, number 271. There's a wideness in God's mercy.
There's a wideness in God's mercy, like the wideness of the sea. There's a kindness in God's justice, which is more than liberty. There is no place where sorrows are more felt than out in hell. There is no place where God's feelings have such gracious judgment given. There is plentiful redemption in the blood that Christ has shed. There is joy for all the members in the sorrows of the head. Troubled souls, why will you scatter like a crowd of frightened sheep? Foolish hearts, why will you wander from a love so true and deep? For the love of God is broader than the measures of the mind, and the heart of the Eternal is most wonderfully kind.
The love of God is broader than the measures of the mind, and the heart of the Eternal is most wonderfully kind. That's just fabulous poetry, right? I mean, that is the kind of judge I want to face if I end up in a courtroom. That's the kind of parent every teenager longs for, the kind of teacher that every high school student hopes will understand when their project isn't finished on time. Like, mercy is the hallmark of how we describe God, and rightly so, a good reason. The mercy of God stands in stark contrast to our own human temptation to be overly harsh and demanding. It reminds us to temper our own behavior. But how many chances is too many? Like in another story, also in the Gospels, the disciples asked Jesus, how many times should you forgive somebody who wrongs you? And Jesus responds, 70 times 7. Like, in other words, over and over again, as long as it takes. But in this story, not so much. Fig tree gets one more year. That's all. That's it. There's a time limit. I'll give you all the care and attention I can muster, but no figs left next summer, and look out. So which is it? Is it a time-limited opportunity to turn around, or is it a merciful response 70 times 7 times? Like, maybe maybe neither story is intended to be the rule that you follow every time. Maybe both stories are intended to make you think about what it takes to bring the world back into balance. I'd never feel comfortable with giving up on a person who wasn't being fruitful, whatever that means. But I can certainly see how putting a time limit on some things might make sense, like institutions that aren't doing what they're meant to do, or church programs, or committees, or schools. Like, I've pulled the plug on stuff around our church, and probably rightly so. I mean, if you're part of a social program that's supposed to help people change and people aren't changing, how long do you wait before you try another strategy? I don't give up on the hope of people changing, but I sure will give up on a program if it isn't doing what it's supposed to do. The idea that those kinds of programs are supposed to make a difference in the world, that's important. If they're not doing their job, I mean, there really does come a time when you should stop banging your head against the wall. I've uprooted plants in my own garden that weren't performing. It's not comfortable, but it's stupid not to. So what the gardener does in this story, it makes sense to me. Do everything you can do to turn things around, and then figure out when to cut your losses. I think there's ways to apply that to other parts of life too. Right? I think I made that kind of terrible decision around my first marriage too. I mean, I couldn't, in good conscience, move to end that marriage until I'd truly done the best I knew how to do to repair it. But after I'd been doing that for a while and nothing was changing, I finally decided I had to go through with the divorce. I've seen churches make that kind of terrible decision about their own life together too. When young people stop coming, when Sunday schools are empty, there's no energy left in the rump of people who are sticking around to offer mission or care for anybody other than just themselves. Like, there's a limit to how much manure is going to make a difference. And of course, closing churches doesn't mean abandoning the people who were there. I mean, the churches that are closing these days go and find new homes for their members, and by and large, those members are thriving better in a new environment than they were in the old one, where all their energy went to just propping up an institution that wasn't working. Like, maybe that pushes the metaphor a bit. That's like a garden transplanting the tree to a different location instead of just cutting it down. And certainly, my kids and I have all thrived better after my divorce was final. Maybe that's another sort of transplant. The gardening image does help you ponder options when a plant isn't doing well, right? But foundational to this parable is the notion that we all have a purpose. We have fruit to bear. God needs us, not simply to take up space and resources, but to produce food and nourishment and strength that'll benefit others besides ourselves. Fig trees are grown to feed people, not just to use space in the garden. People are grown to share love and companionship and joy and support. God needs us to take our purpose seriously too. When we're not able to be fruitful where we're planted, maybe the conditions need to be changed. Maybe we need to be moved to a different location. How do we help people who are languishing take stock of their purpose? So that's something we should be thinking about coming out of this story. Now no metaphor is perfect. Every metaphor is incomplete, and you can pull this one apart and find all kinds of ways that it doesn't exactly match reality. Like, I get nervous, for example, about who decides if somebody else is being fruitful, how we define that. Disabled people, for example, like they rightly challenge our notions about who's being fruitful and who isn't. And I'm glad they do. Like, being fruitful cannot simply mean being able to clock a 9-to-5 job or produce a certain number of widgets or even turn a profit every quarter. I mean, that's why the landowner is missing the boat in this story, right? I get nervous about how to judge whether somebody has truly changed. It's easier with a fig tree, but how do you know if a sex offender is safe to let out, or if they're still at risk of doing something terrible? With the best science in the world, sometimes our system offers second chances and the unthinkable happens. We know that. How do you commit to the practice of mercy and second chances and also protect the vulnerable both at the same time? These are hard questions. They're not easy ones. The easy out would be to say never be merciful. It just puts people at risk. The easy out would be say never offer a second chance. People don't deserve it. And that'd be wrong. Jesus calls us to more complexity than that. We need to balance those hopes of the landlord with the possibility that nourishment really could change the tree. Balance the call to be merciful with the imperative to be fruitful. Balance the desires of the individual with their role in a complex web of society around us. The story raises all those questions. I don't see it coming up with a hard and fast rule that always applies in every circumstance, and that's okay. This isn't a Greek fable. It's a Jewish discussion starter, right? But growing out of this discussion starter, I see it inviting us to talk about the importance of mercy and treating people with kindness and understanding that we hope to receive from other people for ourselves. And that tempers my outrage when somebody hurts me or when somebody falls short of what I want. I mean, I see, too, the importance of being fruitful, using my life to feed others as well as myself. That pushes me to accept that when my own fruitfulness stops happening, something needs to change, probably something pretty drastic. I want to make a difference. I want my life to matter. And I see the importance of working hard in this story, working hard to make sure that when I offer a second chance to somebody else, I'm offering more than just lip service to a good idea. Makes me realize I need to follow, if I'm going to follow a God who's willing to put all that work into cultivating the soil at my roots and adding fresh fertilizer to help me be stronger and give me second chances when I'm not bearing the fruit the way I meant to be, I need to follow that model and do that for other people around me too. Like what God does for me needs to be a model for how I behave. Mercy, fruitfulness, second chances, and all that work that it takes to make those possible. Those are pretty important values to bring into any conversation about how to change the world around us, or even change the world inside us. How do you change the things that need to be changed? How do you help all of us find the life we were meant to live? Let's sing again. We're going to sing More Voices number 5. Holy Spirit, you're like the wind.
Holy Spirit, you're like the wind, blowing gently above the trees. Where the wind blows, the flowers bloom. Where the wind blows, there is life. Let it blow over me. I pray.
So friends, again, welcome. We're glad you're here. Thanks for joining us and for being a part of our worship today. A bunch of announcements that I wanted to share with you. First of all, remind you that we continue to worship here in Zoom and at YouTube every Sunday morning at 11. And we worship on Zoom Monday to Friday at 6 as well. You're always welcome to join us. Starting the 3rd of April, we'll also be back in our sanctuary, working with those cameras, and many thanks to Alex and Paul who will be managing the tech for us so that we can have a kind of hybrid worship service. But I hope you'll feel comfortable joining us for worship in the sanctuary. We're hoping to get the bugs out of that so that by the time Easter comes up on the 17th of April, we'll feel comfortable being in the space again. Wanted to let you know that we have got some air cleaners in the sanctuary, and according to our calculations, they should be cleaning the air, putting all the air in the sanctuary through those filters 4 to 6 times an hour, which is what's recommended by the authorities to keep it as safe as it can. So we're doing our bit to make sure that the place is comfortable and safe for people who want to come back. And of course, if you don't want to come back, we'll continue to use the electronic tools as well. We're asking you when you come, please bring a mask, because we're going to be singing, and that's more dangerous than talking, we're told. So we'd like you to wear a mask while we're having our worship service. Even though the government says it's not necessary in most places, we're asking for that. It'll help make it feel safe to people who are nervous as well. So that's our plan, and that's starting the 2 weeks hence on the 3rd of April. I hope you'll join us then. Our choir will start rehearsing on Sunday mornings in the sanctuary as well, starting on April 3. But between now and then, they're continuing to rehearse on Sunday mornings in Zoom. And the church school is joining us on Zoom at 9:30. So connect there and get your link from the church's website so that so you can find where we are. Stay After Church. Congregational Life Committee is presenting this really interesting time to connect with each other after church today. Celebration of men's creativity. There's a bunch of guys who have pulled together a little presentation on things they've been doing that have been fun and creative and different. And there's a whole long lineup of folks hosted by Alex Stewart to share some things with us after the church service today. So stick around after worship and support the guys in our congregation and celebrate this. This is kind of an outgrowth of that CLC program we used to do with men's baking auction, right? This one is not about raising money to send kids to camp. Who knows whether there'll be even camps this summer. But it is a way to celebrate the different kinds of creativity we see in some of the men and their children in our congregation. So stick around after worship and cheer them on. And then next Sunday is our annual meeting. March 27, we'll have an abbreviated worship service and then move into our annual meeting. I'm hoping the meeting will start somewhere around 11:45 Toronto time, and our accountant is planning to be with us for 12:30 to walk us through the financial statements. I did send out a link to an electronic copy of the annual report on Friday to everybody who's on our email list. So if you haven't opened that email yet, you might want to go back and have a look. I've also mailed out a few copies to people I know don't have email. If you haven't received a copy and you'd like one, let me know, and I have a couple of spare copies I can pop in the mail to you. So one way or another, we'd love you to be able to read through the report and see what's coming. If you're getting the electronic copy, I suspect you'll want to read through it on your screen rather than print it off. There's a lot of pages to it, and it may not be something you want taking up space on your bookshelf forever. But there it is, and hope you find it useful. We sure had fun putting it together. As usual, it's peppered with pictures as well as with reports. One of the things we frequently do at annual meetings is encourage people to join some of our committees. We're still looking for a couple of people who might be interested in the worship committee, a couple of people who might be interested to be on our board. So if that sounds interesting to you, please speak to myself or to Earl White, and we'll put your name forward at the meeting next week. Like most of the charities across Canada these days, the United Church has a special appeal on right now where we're raising money to support the folks who are in trouble in Ukraine. Most of the monies that we raise are going through a couple of our partners who have agencies right on the ground there. The ACT Alliance, which is a group of churches, and the Humanitarian Coalition. Both groups are already established in Eastern Europe and already very active, and so we're enhancing the work that's already going on rather than try to parachute something brand new in. If you'd like to support that kind of work, go to the United Church General Council's website. That's united-church.ca, and you can make your donation there. And of course, as we've done for 2 years now, we invite you to look around your neighborhood. Who is lonely, isolated, bored? Who needs groceries? What can you do to make a tangible difference for your neighbors? What do you need? Are there things that somebody from the church could help you with? The church office, here at the church office, we're willing to be a kind of clearinghouse and connect the people who have something to offer with people who are looking for help. Let us know, and we'll try to connect one to the other. And thank you for the ways that you are taking care of your neighbors as well as yourself in these strange times we're living in. And thank you too for the financial contributions you make to our congregation's ministry. It's because of your donations that we can continue to offer all the different things that we do. And it does matter, it makes a difference, and we're grateful. Continues to be true that the easiest way to contribute to us financially is through those electronic tools at our website. If you use one of them, the money goes directly into our bank accounts, and nobody has to touch it, which is so convenient for us and quick for you. So the link at the website, foresthilluc.org/donate. I encourage you to use that. And Sarah Joyce, our treasurer, and I are also in the church once a week or so to deposit checks that come in the mail. So however you offer us support, we are grateful. Grateful for the confidence you show in us, as well as for the gifts you offer. I invite you to ponder all the gifts in your hands, the ones that you receive, the ones that you have to offer, the way that God blesses us with grace and invites us to be a blessing. We'll sing our doxology and we'll bless those gifts. Kamiskana Yikun, Salamat Sayo, O Dios, we give you thanks, O God, for the ways that you have blessed us even in the midst of the pandemic, for the gifts you have put into our hands, for the opportunities you have laid before us to give to others. Come bless all that we have to give and use us to give second chances to the world. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And we continue in prayer as we offer our thanksgivings and our concerns to God. As we've done for the last 2 years, we'll invite you to use the chat as your way of contributing to our prayers. If you use the chat in Zoom or in YouTube, I will read it aloud so that those who are connecting through the recording or those who are connecting on the phone will know what you've said. If you're on the phone and you don't have access to the chat, you can push *6 to open your mic, say what you need to say, and then *6 again to close the mic. Let's pray together. Gracious God, gracious and merciful God, we bring thanks for stories that provoke us to wonder and to wrestle and to try to find good strategies to make a difference in the world. We bring thanks for hard questions and the invitation to bring grace into the midst of those wrestling times. Hear us as we think back to those who have been merciful to us and give thanks. Hear us as we think about those times when we have been invited to be merciful, and what it took and what difference it made when we rose to that challenge. Hear us as we reflect on the mercy and the grace and the second chances we have received, and all the things that we are grateful for. And so we name in the chat our gratitude. Thankful to George and Sandra for blooming snowdrops outside. And Linda's grateful for a visit to my mom yesterday, she says, now that she's out of the hospital. Morgan is grateful to have spent time with her mom and Faith this past week in Toronto. And grateful too to the men in our congregation who are sharing their creative selves with us today, and for the joy that God's gift of creativity can bring to us. Faith is grateful for ginger kombucha and foxes. Faith, there's always a story behind everything you say, and I'd love to hear it. And is grateful for help from George and Sandra to reorganize the transept and the parlor. Alex is grateful not to have to share the bus with thousands of students. And Bob, grateful that today is the first day of spring. On this second anniversary of our pandemic worship services, I'm grateful for Zoom and the ways that it has allowed us to connect. For all your gifts, oh God. For all the ways you bring hope and joy and new birth into our lives. We bring thanks. And so we turn our thoughts to the concerns that we have, to the fears, to the conflicts, to the cries for vengeance, to the times when we don't want to be merciful. Hear us as we name our concerns. Alex is concerned about the end of masking mandates. I'm praying for Cecile and her family, says Morgan. For Putin, who's in a difficult position, says Anne. Faith prays for Ukraine, says Morgan. Hear our prayers, O God. Pray, says Linda, for my co-worker whose mother passed away this week and who can't go to her home country for the funeral. For our prayers for all these things, for all those who are struggling, for all those who are needing second chances, for all those who are begging for mercy, for all those who are reluctant to offer it. Here are paths. Show us the path we need to walk. Set our hearts right as we strive to live faithfully in your hurting world. And so, gathering our thoughts and prayers together into one, we pray as Christ taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And our final hymn, More Voices number 209, Go Make a Difference.
Go make a difference. You can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. We are the salt of the earth, called to let the people see the love of God for you and me. We are the light of the world, not to be hidden, not be seen. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. We are the hands of Christ reaching out to those in need. The face of God for all to see. We are the spirit of hope. We are the voice of peace. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. So let your love shine on. Let it shine for all to see. Go make a difference in the world. And the Spirit of Christ will be with us as we go. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world. Go make a difference. We can make a difference. Go make a difference in the world.
Fruitfulness, mercy, second chances. Go make a difference. Powerful, powerful words to take with us today. As you ponder them, may God bless you and keep you this day and forever. Amen.
if we should stray. May the light of God shine on us today. May the love of God live in us today. May the love of God live in us today. May the warmth we feel within us show in all we do and say. May the love of God live in us today. May the peace of God be with us today. May the peace of God be with us today. May it guide us and protect us as we go our separate ways. May the peace of God be with us. May the love of God live in us. May the light of God shine on us today and every day.
Thanks, Nancy. Thank you all. It's lovely to be with you today, and we're so glad you joined us. That draws to a close the formal part of our worship service today, and we're going to transition right into our celebration of men's creativity. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Alex, who is our host for the day. So Alex, on behalf of the Congregational Life Committee, we're delighted to welcome you into the role of host for this celebration of creativity, and I'll turn things over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, up here, down there, and sideways, welcome to the Men's Creativity Celebration. For this particular purpose, I made a really cheesy sign about a week ago with some colored crayons and stuff, because that is an act of creation. Anything that you can do on paper, a song you can sing, this all contributes to creating something. Now, in my case, my speciality I'm going first, by the way. Actually, I have a special slide that I forgot to put up, but give me just a second. Oh, could I have the screen sharing? If I am allowed to share the screen, I can.
Sorry about that, Alex. Go ahead now.
Okay, I want to share. There's the more professional looking one. And I like this little graphic in orange and black, but I didn't design that one. That was done by Microsoft for me. So we go to there. I'm going first. I volunteered because it's nice to be able to get things over with, because naturally my adrenaline's going and I'm so excited. And one little trick I learned in theater arts school back in high school is you take your hands and you shake them very rapidly. And you do that for several minutes. And then you find when you're finished, you're not going to be fumbling with your fingers or playing with your rings. Okay, I shall just lower that screen for a minute. And okay, so I'm going to bring up another screen in just a second, because what I've done is all the way back from high school. In fact, I had a passion for music. I collected music. I started to record songs off the radio, just holding the microphone up to the speaker. That used to give me some kind of a hum. So later on, of course, once the technology improved, I was able to record right off the air onto cassette tape. And it wasn't long before I was sharing tapes with my friends. Oh, wait till you hear this song. I just found out this song and I want you to hear it. That led to, later on in the 80s, a bit of a role at the University of Toronto Community Radio. This was, I was the assistant music director when they first got their FM license. And I used to have a midnight show, so I could just do anything I wanted to for 6 hours. The first few hours were great because I was going on adrenaline. And then, of course, around 3 or 4 in the morning, I'm starting to drop off a little bit and looking for longer songs to play so I can just have a quick nap or go to the bathroom. Now that technology has gotten to the point where, we can burn our own CDs, I started doing that as a way of sharing music with my friends. And I collected quite a bunch of them. Now that it is possible that to do podcasting, that is my latest adventure. I started up 6 months ago, and using the same programs that I had already put on CD, I started loading them up one by one, or one per week. And each musical program is 1 hour long because that's the limit on Mixcloud, which is what I upload to. And I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. Each show has to have a kind of a strong beginning. It goes into kind of it's like going on a voyage because every song has a sort of relationship with the song before it and the song after it. So when you do the whole hour, you want to be able to have the sum as more important than just the parts, or more than equal than just the parts. I'm not working with the script, so bear with me. I'll show you a little bit what this particular program looks like. And there we go. The one I use is called Audacity. Now, this one is very simple. You just load your songs on one track at a time. I have sort of highlighted 2 tracks, and I'll see if you can actually hear them as I play them along. The first piece is by Keith Emerson, a church organ prelude, and the really wiggly lines is my talking underneath.
Okay, Alex, we're seeing your PowerPoint, but we're not seeing the slide you're talking about or the program you're talking about. Are you sharing maybe the wrong screen or something?
No, this should be.
What I'm seeing is the men's celebration of creativity in your name.
Oh, hang on. Let's see if I can get rid of that.
So what I suggest, go back to that share button, the green share button, and
right
on the pop-up, you'll see the screens you've got open and then each of the applications you have open. Click the application you want to show.
Okay, there we go. And I'll click share again. Multimedia, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go. That looks like Audacity. Thank you.
So this is
Sorry to
only.
interrupt you, Alex.
No, I'm glad you did because I'm seeing it, but I want everybody else to see it just to see how. I know it looks intimidating at first, especially when you have dozens of tracks that you've piled up because every song is one track. And I can actually, let's see, by pushing this button, I can slide things around. If I want my voice to start later, let's see if I can get that to work. No, it's not working, but that's okay. This is a new version of Audacity that, anyway, so I've got my voice talking, I've got a piece of music, I have another piece of music, and this is like a quick commercial because ironically, the very next program that I'm uploading on Friday is on creativity. I'm in the middle of a series right now, which deals with creativity, or it's basically music as a spiritual experience, not just like church hymns, but actually the act of listening to music can be a kind of communal experience. And so it always has to have a strong beginning, great middle, and then a nice ending, all in 1 hour. I think, did I have something else to show you here? I've just gotten, oh yeah, there's a picture of, I'll just go to a new share. And this is a picture of me that if you want to go and find any of these programs on Mixcloud, type in Alexander Stewart into their own search engine. You'll see 6 or 7 people with the exact same name. Just look for this picture of me gazing out the window and wondering what I'm going to do next. And you'll be able to choose from over 24 shows that I have now put online for the last 6 months. Some of them are series, some of them are independent shows. As I say, the one I'm in the middle of right now is going to look at creativity because creation is an exercise in bravery. I mean, it takes guts to be able to create something that wasn't there before. And so I have a little mini sermon somewhere in the middle of the program that speaks to that. And do I have anything else to show you? I didn't rehearse this, obviously, but okay. So what I will do is start to get out of all these screens, if I may. That's my wife. What's she doing here? Oh, I don't know, but alrighty. So back to this. I'm going to now find my PowerPoint. Good. And thanks for bearing with me, folks. I didn't rehearse this. Okay, I'm now preparing for our next guest and our host. And I have him. Oh, he's coming live. I don't have to worry about recording anything, picking up a recording.
So we're still seeing the picture of Sheila. Alex, did you want to take that down? Who's our next guest?
Okay. Pause share, new share. Okay, I'll just keep that handy. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go back to here. Okay, I hope you're seeing this.
Not right now. I think you've paused the share. Do you want to just stop the share?
Oh, okay.
Why don't you tell us on your program of creativity, give us 3 or 4 of the pieces of music you're going to include in that lineup. Have you thought about it yet?
Well, it's a mixture. There's a piece by a Japanese percussionist by the name of Stamu Yamashita, which starts the program off. It's kind of a introductory piece with lots of kettle drums and synthesizers, and it sets the mood for everything. Then there's a great jazz piece by John Abercrombie from a trio performance he gave in Boston in 1988, where he plays a guitar synthesizer. And the drummer is the guy who used to be in Weather Report, Peter Erskine. Oh, it's a great piece of music. It's just very propulsive and it goes along quite nicely. Right now, I can't do it from memory, unfortunately, because I'm sort of focusing on all the tech, but
That's okay. I think it's fascinating how many different genres of music you include in this podcast.
well, that's the thing, because that's what nobody else is doing. I can have a rock piece, I can have jazz, I can have folk, I can have classical, I can have electronic. And then if I'm successful, I make it all merge and kind of sort of complement each other.
You've even included the Cantala Women's Choir.
Yes, on one of the Christmas shows. It's still up. I forget which one it is, but it's definitely a highlight.
Sure.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. That's sort of the brief there. I would like to turn it over now to our next speaker, Mr. John McCulloch.
Hi there. Now, what I'm going to show you today, ladies and gentlemen, is something that I didn't actually start this, but I kind of copied it. And it is known as a toaster tongs. Now, have you ever had problems getting your toast out of your toaster? And you start to put a knife in and push it, cut it around, and it makes, when you see sparks, then you get problems. So anyway, this little guy is toaster tongs. Okay. It's actually a piece of wood, but there are 2 tongue depressors. One,
John, hold them right up in front of your face because we're having trouble seeing them. You're below.
Okay.
There you go. That's better.
how's that? Okay, that's one. This is 2. And what we do, we would just mount them between that little piece of wood, like that.
Up in front of your face.
Up, there we
There
go.
we go. Thank you.
And that looks like this when it's finished. And then you can squeeze them.
But you don't squeeze them. Yeah, show them
Yeah.
how you squeeze it.
So you have your piece of bread coming out of your toaster like this.
Hold your hand up in front of your face. Yeah. And then
And you just pop this down over the toast
squeeze it.
and then squeeze it and pull it out.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
Works a treat.
it works very well. And they're very
Oh, better
popular.
than using a kitchen knife.
Much.
Well, that's true. Or a fork, which is even worse. That basically is what
And
it
you
is.
sell them in packages.
Well,
Here's a full one.
you can,
We sell them at Christie Gardens in a sale, spring sale in packages.
well, we have a dozen in here. You don't need a dozen. But you want, I make a dozen at a time. And there's 6 in each send. Most going in this way.
Show them the empty one.
The other one. Oh, and these are the packets.
So Anne is asking you, how much do you sell them for?
Oh, $3. They're very popular at Christmas, of course, for stocking stuffers. And anyone else during the year that wants to get over the problem of pulling burnt toast or something out of the toaster when it's still hot, or just a hot piece of toast. Anyway, that's basically what I have. And
And pass it on to the next guy.
I'll now pass it on back to Alex.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. John, that was fantastic. I want one. I want several.
You're allowed to visit, by the way, Alex, now.
Oh,
I mean,
that's-
long-term care.
oh, no, that's great. So I don't have to go past several checkpoints to get through and
Yeah.
get my temperature taken.
That's
Right.
But I will keep wearing my mask.
Yes.
Good idea.
Oh, thanks once again. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to go up to and the team, actually, Christopher and Neil Ono, better known as the Onos.
Thanks, Alex. I'll share my screen in a second. But we had a last minute thought about what Ian could share. And he graciously, from a distance, he's at a sleepover. He said that I would be able to share it. So if I may share my screen, I don't know if I have the ability right
Go
now.
ahead.
Okay. So the first one we're going to show is, sorry, can you see the blank
Yeah.
screen with just, okay.
We're
Is,
still
something-
seeing you're not sharing your screen yet, Christopher.
Oh, okay. I thought I had. Try that again.
There we go.
Okay.
Now we're seeing your PowerPoint. There,
So
perfect.
I'm going to show something that Neil has contributed. Neil, did you want to talk about this? I see he's on the call, but I'm not sure if he wants to unmute
I
him.
am. I just don't have my camera on, but I'll get it on.
No, you don't have to turn it on, Neil. You can talk about,
Just kidding.
the picture. Did you want to talk about the picture you're going to show?
Yeah, that's okay. I'll
Okay, I'll
talk
bring it up.
a bit about the
So
picture.
we decided to try to do something actually specifically for this event. So this is something that he and I worked on yesterday, or he worked on yesterday.
Hey,
Wow.
yep, it's pretty good.
Oh my.
Yep, it just has some of my favorite fictional characters in it.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
So these are animated characters from all over the spectrum of various
All over,
animated
yeah.
shows that
Yep.
uh,
A
Neil
lot
has
of
watched over the years.
contrastive animated movies and shows.
Yep. So we've got Simpsons characters, we've got Wall-E characters, we've got Lightning McQueen, we've got SpongeBob, we've got Adventure Time.
You've got
Yep,
a great
Just
eye.
one Cars character.
You've got a great eye. Those characters are very recognizable.
Mhm.
Thank
just
you.
nailed it.
So that was Neil's contribution, which he did yesterday.
Wow.
Yep.
Good.
And then Ian said that it was okay to share some images of some scale models that he's done over the years. So this is a Cromwell tank from World War II.
Hmm.
Wow.
This is a Hellcat, an M18 Hellcat. It's a tank destroyer. And this is a Flak Panzer. It's a anti-aircraft tank that the
Lots of
Germans
little
used in World War
pieces.
II. Yeah, lots of little pieces.
Yes.
Mhm.
So when I was trying to think of something that I could share for my kind of creative contribution, I thought I've been thinking about war a lot. I think you should think about peace. And as a Christian, I think it's kind of more important to think about that aspect of our lives. So I was looking for quotations on peace, and I decided to do them in a style that I've been practicing on and off for many years. Initially, handwriting was a part of what you needed to be a draftsperson for the architecture world, but that's not so much a big thing anymore. So I had been practicing calligraphy since probably about grade 4. I'm a little out of practice, as you might be able to see, but I think it's not too bad. And these are the sorts of things that I was thinking about this week. So these are quotes from Martin Luther and Albert Einstein, and of course the Bible here.
Yes.
And then this is done in the black letter Gothic style. And then a style that I think I'm actually a little bit better on is the unical style, which is the next page. And this is a excerpt
Brilliant.
from what's often called the Prayer of St. Francis, but I found out yesterday, that it's actually probably written by someone named Father Esther Bocarel, and he published it in a book and had a picture of St. Francis, and someone in America picked it up and said that, oh, it's the Prayer of St. Francis. So someone later summarized the relationship between the prayer and St. Francis. One can safely say that although he's not the author, it resembles him and would not have displeased him. And so I took some of the verses out of it and decided to share it with you. So thanks for letting me share.
Very nice.
Your calligraphy is so beautiful, Christopher. I am honored to have a piece of Christopher's calligraphy hanging in my office that he gave me, oh golly, years ago now, when you first came to the church, I think. But you framed it and brought it to me, and it still hangs proudly in my office. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Beautiful.
Okay, folks, ladies and boys and girls, but actually I'll just say folks and peoples from now on. Okay, peoples, we have for you next George Waller. He is on recording, so I'll need to share screen again and find his, here we go. Give me just a half a second.
So Alex, if he's recorded a video, make sure that you're sharing audio as well as, make sure you're sharing the computer sound when you share your screen.
Okay,
so
well,
when you push that green share button, you get a pop-up box, and down in the bottom left corner, there's a little tick box that says share computer audio.
Okay, let's just
make sure it's ticked so that
share
we can
sound.
hear it.
Got it.
Otherwise, he will be silent, and we'll miss what he has to say.
Oh, thank you for that tip. Yeah, I see it now. Okay, take it away, George.
I wonder what he's creating.
The men's creativity challenge. I'd like to describe my coffee making process. It's 3 parts: roasting, grinding, and making coffee.
Brewing.
Is there a way to turn it up?
Yeah, brewing coffee.
Yeah, Alex, do you have any extra sound? Because it's a little soft.
By loading
No, I'm on full.
Okay.
Mesh cage.
We'll just get close to the speakers.
In the Beemore roaster over there. This is the Beemore 1600.
Oh, there he's got the
coffee roaster. Have the observation window here. This is the mesh drum which contains the beans. This tray here is the chaff collector. The heat is provided by panels at the rear. Which heat up. The drum rotates to try and keep the heating of the beans even. The roasting is controlled here. The top buttons define the weight of beans you're putting in. The P buttons control.
Oh, look at it.
Heat profile.
He's making sparrow.
And these buttons here tell you various things like
in the
The
microwave.
temperature, it's saying the chamber is 130 Fahrenheit. This plot shows the temperature rise as a function of time. The one in red is
First crack.
my roast, and the one in grey is an ideal. Also shown is first crack, which is when the beans expand. Okay, that was the end of first crack. Now
I'm
I can get ready to cool it down.
This is the cooling process, and because George opened the door, the fire alarm goes off as regular. Because the coffee beans is an oily kind of smoky thing, but it's like, wake up and smell the coffee.
This is the coffee brewing equipment from left to right. The scale accurate to 1 gram. A commercial grade coffee grinder. The Bezzera espresso machine. This shows the bottom of the portafilter where the flow of coffee comes out into the waiting cup.
Okay, make your coffee. George is measuring for 17 grams. He's applying 20 pounds of pressure to make a lovely puck of coffee. We're waiting 25 seconds for that perfect little double shot of espresso. The top is the crema, which there's a lot of.
Just need to wait a little bit till it settles.
It's the equivalent of like a head on a Guinness beer.
Yep.
Waiting for it to settle.
There you go.
Thank you very much, George. And I'm going to now screen share again. Our next presenter is Adam Markle, which I have over here. And share sound, yes. Now, also, he is soft-spoken. I think I have the volume set on just about full, but it's not letting me go any further. Okay, Adam Markles, COVID cooking.
Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry I couldn't make it today, although I guess I'm making it. When Morgan asked me about something creative that I could share, it was a little hard for me to think of something that would be kind of unique. But I feel like over COVID I did a lot of cooking, mainly because a lot of my favorite places were closed or locked down. And I feel like I really experimented since I've moved out, which was about September, with making something new at least every day. sometimes more than once a day. It depends on how much grocery shopping had been done. So I'll get going. These are some lunch ideas. This is one here that I've done. It was a bruschetta stuffed chicken with a homemade salad. Like the croutons are just day old sliced bread, soaked in peanut oil and broiled, and just a normal, like, typical salad that's there. Another one I did was fried chicken. If you guys have ever had Chick-fil-A, I mean, I know a lot probably haven't, but the sauce is basically barbecue sauce, honey, ketchup, mayo, and I think pepper, and that's about all that's in their secret sauce. Not really a secret. So this is where the design stuff kind of takes place. So I wanted to put some ingredients and like recipes you could actually follow. I'll see if Morgan or someone will share these with you. I also have them in a Word doc, which is probably better with the actual measurements of what foods you'll need. But this is when I made burgers, and I guess smashed potatoes, because they're kind of pressed down. They're like the little baby potatoes, and you just kind of press them down. But and I'm not gonna like read the instructions to you, but I think one of the exciting things about doing stuff like this in your own home is that you really aren't worried about how much calories you're having. You're not really worried about what time you're making it. A lot of these meals I made like either really late at night or just whenever I was bored. That tends to be the case with me for when I eat food. Otherwise, I don't eat. But this is an interesting first one. We'll move to dinner. So like that's another one I did. It's a homemade Alfredo salmon, and that was actually a hot dog bun turned into a garlic loaf. But these are all, and this is all since maybe January. It was like my New Year's resolution for sure to be cooking something new every day. But this is a ragu I did. It was pretty good. I'm just trying to think about anything. Oh, a lot of the stuff in the ingredients, a lot of them I have peanut oil. Not only is it a healthier alternative, I mean, except unless you have allergies, but it just adds like a little bit extra flavor to your meals that you otherwise wouldn't have. Like if you think of a lot of curries or a lot of stews, they kind of have some kind of nut, like almond or peanut or cashew or something, and that kind of does that without you actually having to crush those up or, I don't know, get the shavings or etc. So peanut oil, definitely think good investment. This is a pretty typical, easy to make meal because it's more just about letting it sit for a long period of time. The longest part is probably just the cutting up of however many things you want to put in it, and each time I make this, I like to add more stuff into it, and that's probably why it takes so long. Oh, I realized you guys can't even see, so there's like time things as well. This takes like over an hour to make. Remember to remove your bay leaves before serving. Yeah, I accidentally ate one. This is probably the most fun thing I've made recently. Moving myself out of the way again. So these are carnitas. If you guys have ever had Chipotle or any Mexican place, it basically is like pork fried in its own fat, kind of similar to bacon or how you would cook bacon. But it's more like a pulled pork or shredded pork consistency, so it's just that it takes a lot of time. You can see, again, I'm not gonna read the instructions, but it has a process for its cooking in a boil, and its process for frying in its own fat. And then on top of that, I went to Williams Sonoma and I got a tortilla press, which I've been using quite a lot. So we also made our own taco shells, which I encourage you to do because they do have a different taste if you make them yourself than, I don't know, Old El Paso, or I'm trying to think of whatever brand it would be. But this was, I think, a really fun meal for me. It lasted it was like 3 days worth of leftovers, but I think it was definitely one of the most challenging things I've made. Just about precision, you see a lot of semantics in the recipe, but the balls of the tortilla can't pass a certain weight or they wouldn't hold together. And just little specific things about how the pork's supposed to, like the texture it's supposed to have before it moves to the next step, and making sure the tortillas are kept in a dishcloth so that they don't become moist, so that humidity is soaked up into the cloth, stuff like that. And then last, these are just random mentions that I'll quickly go through. So I've done a lot of baking as well. There's banana chocolate chip muffins, banana chocolate chip loaf, peanut butter chocolate chip cookies. This one was really fun to make at home, but lobster ravioli and steak. This is steak sandwiches, and this is a lunch I made. I babysit Maya frequently. Maya is a kid of Terrence and Stephanie, a family of the church, and I like to also get creative when I'm making her lunch. Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed. I hope you're doing lots of cooking over COVID. I'm really sorry I couldn't be there today, but I'm looking forward to seeing all of you soon. I hope you all have a good rest of your Sunday, and God bless you.
Okay, folks, we're going to now go to Daniel Morgan. Daniel, are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so Morgan family, whoever else has got a speaker on, you've got to move into another room. You can only have one mic and speaker in the same room.
So hello
go.
everyone. I'm going to be talking about what I've been doing creatively. So I have been making video games. So one of my hobbies is computer programming, coding. So I've been taking a lot of computer science courses in school, and yeah, so that's something I've been doing. So if I can share my screen. Okay, it looks like I can. Let me sort this out. There. Okay. Yeah, so what coding consists of, this is this behind the scenes of it. So you're basically writing in, it's like writing a story in a language that the computer understands, to put it simply. So yeah, so this was something I made for my final school assignment last year. Looks like something's happening. Yep, so here it is. So yeah, so I made this for a school assignment. So what this really consists of is coming up with a story or concept that you want to implement, and then from there it's really making it come alive. So I drew all these assets for creating it and pieced it together. So yeah, so this took me about 3 weeks to make, I think, in total for my final assignment. So the idea of this game is you play, again, it's really writing a story, an interactive story is kind of the idea behind creating games. So the idea of this is you play as the bad guy, and as you work your way through the game, you realize that you're not doing the right thing. And it takes place in a magical world where you're the guy in the middle of the screen. And you're a magical creature bounty hunter. So you're collecting magical creatures, and at the end of the game, you realize it's wrong. You shouldn't be, taking these creatures away from their habitat, and then you release them back. So there's a series of stages that you progress through, each one with specific level design in order to test the player's ability. So this is just like the introduction to the story, and there's like cutscenes that sort of reveal more information about the story and what's going on, and give information to the player on how to play. Yeah, so this is the first level. So all these graphical assets, I made and put together, and there's some cool like just art related abilities. It's not really the most artistic art. A lot of it is like the logic and sort of underlying design that goes into creating individual components of the game. But overall, it kind of gets pieced together into something that really, again, is a story. So yeah, if I just there's several pieces that get put together into making this. And so one of those things that I created was a shader that draws light and shadows sort of thing. So if I just demonstrate that really quick here, you can see there's shadows being drawn in real time around the player. So there's like lights coming from individual aspects on the scene. So you see there's mushrooms with lanterns hanging around, and you can see the shadows being sort of dynamically drawn around the player. So coding is it's kind of seen as more of an individual sport, but there's definitely ways that you can interact with other people. And one example of that is for my school ran a game jam. So what a game jam is a bunch of people form teams together, and in a group you come up with an idea for a game and you make it together. So what I did for that was with a team of 3 of my classmates. It looks like, sorry. With 3 of my classmates is I created this game, which I had a few of my team members worked on the sound design. Some people drew art for it, worked on the coding for it, and it's really a way for a bunch of different people to combine their individual talents into one medium. Looks like it's having a hard time loading here, but yeah, I don't know what's going on. This loaded up again. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so this is the product of me and a few of my friends over. I guess this was the winter break. I made this, so end of December. Yeah, so another game. So that's what I've been doing. It's one of my hobbies is creating games, and that's how I've been exploring, artistically in a way. So thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. That's great. That's fascinating too, especially because like anything else, you look at a screen full of alphanumeric symbols and it starts to look really complicated, or it looks, but it's like anything else that you just look at the things you really need to use at the time and disregard the rest until you get better at it. Okay, folks, last but not least, I present to you Reverend Steve Fetter.
There we go. You've heard from him before. I don't know whether you really need to see him again or not, do you? I feel like I get an awful lot of airtime around here. When I'm playing around and having fun, one of the things that I have really enjoyed doing is stuff that's tangible, because so much of my work isn't, and you never know when it's going to be finished. So right around the beginning of the pandemic, I got a wood lathe from Linda's brother-in-law. It was an old lathe that his father bought in the 1950s, and I started learning how to use it, and I've had so much fun with it that I just purchased one that's a little bigger and a little more expensive, but that's the way hobbies work. Anyway, I thought I'd show you a little bit about the kind of thing I'm doing on that. So let me just... So this is about a 12-inch bowl that I'm roughing out, and with a bowl this size, I'm working with a piece of wood that Beth Harriman gave me. Now, they had an ash tree taken down in their yard, and they called me over and said I could have some of their logs if I'd like some. So I took about a dozen logs home and cut them up with a chainsaw, and here's one of the pieces that they gave me. And so, because they just cut this wood down in October, it's still pretty green. And so it's going to do a lot of shrinking and warping and changing as it dries, but it's easier to cut this way. So when I'm roughing it out like this, I cut it to about an inch thick, maybe just a little more, and then I'll let it dry for several months before I cut it again. So here's what it looks like as I'm working away on the lathe. It's just a 30-second video. Whoops, hang on. And you can see how much mess it makes. This is not Linda's favorite part. But I have several garbage bags full of shavings that I'm going to use as mulch in the garden, and probably bring quite a few of them down to the church too. But have a lot of fun with that. And here's some of the things I've been doing. So once I've made cut a green bowl like this, then I paint it with this waxy substance on the end grain, so that it will dry a little more slowly, and with any luck it won't crack. And as it dries, it goes out around. So you can see on the right this picture of a cereal bowl that I made at the beginning of February, and already it's very much football shaped. I will wait another month or two before I put it back on the lathe and true it up and bring it down into something much more narrow. But that's the way you take a green bowl and dry it more quickly and make it round again. And then when it's all finished, I use a buffer to polish it up so that it's all shiny. So I tend to be finishing these ones with linseed oil, and then when it's dry, buff them up on the buffer. This is called a natural edge bowl, which is easier to do when the wood is green. You can leave the bark on and it's less likely to fall off. So I've been experimenting with that. That's another one of the logs from Beth Harriman's tree. And there's just a few sample pieces that I've made over the last six months or so. There's a close-up of that lidded bowl that I made. And I'm starting to learn how to go a little deeper around the inside and make a smaller, narrower opening at the top. So experimenting with that and trying to figure out how to reach underneath the top and still make it thin. So there's my latest creation. That was just a couple of days ago that that one was finished, and it's the narrowest opening I've made yet. And to do that, I need to have a chisel that has a bend at the end so that I can reach underneath the hole. So that's a brand new chisel that just came in from Lee Valley Tools a couple of weeks ago, and the handle on it is a handle that I made to put on it. So people who work on lathes, they not only make their own bowls, they make their own tools too. So that's some of the stuff I've been playing around with, and it's one of the things I love about it is that when it's finished, it's finished. When I'm finished a sermon, I have another one to write. But when I'm finished a bowl, it's all done. I never have to do anything else with it again. So it's a very different kind of feel, and it's a nice counter stress to the stress in my jobs. So that's the kind of stuff I'm having fun with. Alex, back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Stephen. And thanks to everybody for hanging around to watch, listen, and learn a few things along the way. And I also, before I sign off, I want to thank Morgan in particular for enrolling me into doing this. And when I first said, yeah, sure, I can contribute, I didn't know how much I was going to be contributing. So glad to have done it. And I hope you all have a very good week until we meet again. Oh, and a quick commercial plug. If anybody would like a link to one of my shows, just let me know. I'll send you it by email or something after I've got it uploaded. Okay, folks, have a great day. Thank you so much and take care.
Yeah, and let me just sort of acknowledge the creativity in all the contributors here and everybody else too. What a powerful thing creativity is, and thanks for the opportunity to share it with you. So blessings to you all. Join us next Sunday for our annual meeting and for worship before that. And in the meantime, have a good week. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a good week.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, men.
Thanks,
Those were
Alex.
wonderful.
Thanks, Morgan.
Yes.
Thanks. And for all of those who contributed, thank you very much.
Well, and for the Congregational Life Committee who sponsored this. What a great afternoon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Looking forward to seeing y'all on the 3rd.
Oh, absolutely. Hungry to that, eh?
Great. Okay. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye, all. Enjoy your day.